It is 6 o'clock by our deal, so everybody's microphone's on. The meeting will come to order. Consideration of minutes for the regular meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission held on July 19th, 2018. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of this meeting? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the July 19 minutes as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Please cast your vote.
With all
Please
members
record the vote.
voting aye, the motion passes.
Well, we have a full table tonight, so anybody in the audience, the agendas, listening to all of the public hearings that will be heard tonight are on the table outside the double doors. And we have everybody present. Our first plan tonight, PLN 18015S, site plan review of the development of U-Haul moving and storage of Casper facility, including the construction of self-storage units, warehousing, vehicle and trailer rental and retail space located on Block 1 of the Wyoming Concrete Pipe Company Addition, 725 Bryan Stock Trail. Applicant is Americo Real Estate Company. We have the staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff's recommendation in this case is that if, after the public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission finds that the site plan meets the minimum requirements of the municipal code, staff would recommend that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the site plan with the 9 conditions listed in your staff report. Regarding code compliance, staff has complied with all public notification requirements of Section 1712-150 of the Municipal Code pertaining to site plans, including notification of the property owners within 300 feet, posting of the property, and publishing legal notice in the Star Tribune. Staff did not receive any public comments regarding this case. The application before the Planning and Zoning Commission in this case is a review of a site plan for the development of the U-Haul moving and storage of Casper facility, including the construction of self-storage units, RV parking and storage, vehicle and trailer rental, and vehicle sales located at 725 Bryan Stock Trail. The subject property is approximately 17 acres in size, is currently vacant, and is the former location of the Wyoming Concrete Pipe Company. The property is zoned M2 General Industrial, and the proposed land uses as identified are legal and conforming. The parcel has street right of way on all 4 sides, with Interstate 25 abutting the southern property line. Customer employee parking on the site is located in proximity to the office retail structure, which is the smaller of the 2 existing structures on the site. Customer parking adjacent to the storage units is accommodated by the provision of extra wide aisles to allow for 2-way traffic, in addition to extra width for a parked vehicle loading or unloading in front of the storage unit. All drive aisles, areas in proximity to structures, and the majority of the parking spaces must be paved to city standards as required by code. The applicants have requested that some of the areas of their site be permitted to remain unimproved, provided that adequate access or fire department access is available and all regular driving surfaces are paved. There are benefits to allowing some areas of the site to remain unimproved, primarily stormwater, as well as cost savings. During a review of the project, staff indicated that many of the city's adopted plans and municipal code requirements prioritize aesthetics and landscaping along major streets, and particularly along Interstate 25. For this reason, staff suggested that the applicant forego interior landscaping and instead concentrate all landscaping efforts around the perimeter of the site. A minimum of 4% of the area of the site is required to be landscaped, and the site plan shows it 7% being provided. Although the site is relatively large, a traffic study is not required. The municipal code specifies traffic studies are required for land uses that exceed 75 vehicle trips per peak hour. The Public Services Director determined that the proposed land uses in this case do not reach that threshold. The site will accommodate several different types of land uses, each with its own development impacts. Distinct areas of the site will be devoted to rental vehicle and trailer storage, container storage, vehicle sales, mini storage and warehousing, and covered public RV storage. The site plan identifies specific areas for each of the uses in the overall layout, and fencing, landscaping, buffering, et cetera, have been designed in context with those uses and their locations. Although some flexibility may be required in the future, staff intends to hold firmly to the structure that is established and approved with the site plan to prevent the site from becoming an unorganized and jumbled mess as visible as this site is. Minor changes to the site plan in the future can be approved by the Community Development Director, but major changes would require approval by the Commission. The applicant has indicated that there will be no outside storage of shipping containers on the site, with all containers eventually being housed within the large existing concrete structure once that building has been retrofitted with a fire sprinkler system. Staff firmed up the applicant's representation that no containers would be on the outside with a formal condition of approval. And if the applicant wishes to have container storage outside at some point in the future, it'll require a site plan amendment, likely addressing height limitations, buffering, and additional landscaping. The U-Haul business will utilize 3 points of access, 2 on Bryan-Stock Trail and 1 off of Bryan-Evansville Road. The points of access as shown are acceptable to the fire department, provided the gates do not block access and all drive aisles and areas around structures are paved to city standards. In addition, the fire department is requiring the extension of water lines into the site and placement of fire hydrants strategically throughout in proximity to all structures. The new water lines will require that the applicant provide the city with properly sized and located utility easements. A 75-foot tall batch plant structure or silo stands on the east side of the existing building as a remnant of the former concrete business on the site. Staff suggested to the applicant that the structure be removed as part of the redevelopment of the site. However, the applicant has not intended to remove the structure. Final determination of whether or not the batch plant structure should be allowed to remain is within the Commission's purview. The recommendation provided by staff above includes a condition to remove the structure for consideration by the Commission. Should the Commission decide to allow the structure to remain, the condition can be stricken during the motion to approve. Section 1712-150 of the Municipal Code requires the site plan to be reviewed in context with its compatibility with adopted plans, specifically the Comprehensive Land Use Plan. The Comprehensive Land Use Plan is the city's land use and development policy that land use and development policy document that describes the values and ideals expressed by the community for its future during an intensive year-long public input process. Chapter 3 of the Comprehensive Land Use Plan provides principles and goals. Elements of Chapter 3 that may be applicable to the Commission during its review of the site plan have been summarized in your staff report. Mr. Chairman, I have 6 exhibits to enter. A is the site plan application. B, vicinity map of the 300-foot notification zone. C is the site plan. D, public notice sent to Star Tribune. E, notice of public hearing sent to property owners. And F, memo to the chairman and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. That concludes staff's report, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one
Mr.
question.
King?
Perhaps it might be better to wait until the applicant discusses the issue, but to what extent were your conversations regarding the 75-foot silo removal or batch facility to removal, and were they opposed to it, or were they?
Mr. Chairman, we always provide, when we do a staff review of a site plan or any project really, we always provide written comments to the applicant, which they then turn around and resubmit with changes prior to this meeting. I believe that those, the request to remove that structure was part of those written comments, and I also spoke to the applicant, Mr. Winters, in person out on the site, and I'm not sure what they're why they're opposed to removing it, other than they just hadn't planned on it. And I know it may be costly, but I think it's since it's not being used as a part of this project, it's so close to I-25 and so visible. It was staff's recommendation to remove it to improve the aesthetics.
I'll most likely ask the same question when you explain to us. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? I now declare the public hearing open for consideration of case PLN 18015S. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes and rules of the Planning and Zoning Commission and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals who will address the commission to approach the lectern, identify yourselves, and state your address. Would the person representing this case come forward and explain the application, please?
Good evening, Chairman and Chairwoman. My name is Jim Lormer, 2727 North Central Avenue, Phoenix, Arizona, 885.
Could you speak up, please, or down in the microphone?
Jim Lormer, Phoenix, Arizona, 2727 North Central Avenue, 85383. And thank you for hearing us this morning or this evening. I come with our engineer and landscape architect also to answer any questions. And Mr. Winter, he's local. He's also come with me to answer any questions regarding the facility. Mr. Winters has found Casper to be a prime location for one of our facilities, and I'm here to help him facilitate that. So that's why I'm here from out of town. And we're excited to be here. We're ready to get going, clean that place up, put the landscape in. We're all in favor for that. And as far as the conditions go, we are in favor of all of them, but I had a couple questions on number 2, which is the batch tower. When we first looked at this property, one of the things that just intrigued us was the tower itself, because we're kind of into that industrial architecture and historical aspect of things. So we would like to be able to present a rendering of what we'd like to do with it. We envisioned incorporating that with the building and making it an architectural feature, an homage to the city, or celebrate what the past was in that building. Initially, we're tending to strip it from its inner workings, clean it up, paint it, remove the silo, and keep the structure itself up. And we're going to paint it and maybe put some kind of a welcome sign on there. I'm not sure yet, but we can have a group of artists put a rendering together to present to you for that. But I would not like that to stop the process that we're here on, voting on tonight. So it is in our best interest to present that site as a clean, nice looking facility. Our base is 5 miles. That's where we get most of our customers from. So we do want to be a good neighbor and help out the community. So I would like to request an approval with the omission of the number 2 condition, or somehow, I'm not sure how to do it, but move forward with an approval and come back and revisit the batch plant tower.
Does any in the commission have any questions of Mr. Larman?
I'll ask the same question of you, sir, that I asked of the staff regarding that tower and the structure. Are you representing that you do have some bona fide ideas as to what you'd like to do with it, rather than just avoid taking it down from a cost standpoint? I mean, is there a reasonable chance that it could be used to fit into your structural architecture and made to look attractive, or to look amenable to the area? Or
Yes, we haven't had anything, we haven't come up with anything yet. We just had the facility as built. We had people out there doing as built of the facility and the tower, so that
I guess it's, in my opinion, that I would suspect that the staff's concern and our possible concern would be that it just be ignored and remain as an abandoned part of the property, and that it would stand out as kind of a sore thumb, and I guess that would be one of the concerns about leaving it in place. But if there's serious discussions going on in your operations and between you and the city or whoever, making that part of the property and enhancing the attractiveness or the value or both, then I think it's something that we could certainly consider.
Yeah, we wouldn't leave it as it is, obviously. We would definitely create a showcase type of a feature. We didn't have any drawings to do anything up on it, so we'll probably Photoshop something in and it just hasn't come out.
Okay.
But, yeah, I think the conveyor belt and all of the inner workings would be removed, maybe that silo on the side, but, and the structure itself.
Okay.
I have one more question. No outside storage and shipping containers. I may have looked and saw something that I'm not familiar with. I was out there today looking at the site. In the middle of there's some storage containers. Are they going to be moved inside?
I could, Kelly is the marketing company president for
Okay.
Wyoming and Casper. He lives in Casper, so he can answer that. I had not seen that when I was out there, but,
And I may have misinterpreted. Your name and address, please, sir.
Kelly Winters, 19 John Quell, here in Casper, and marketing company president for the state of Wyoming. Them are van boxes that I'm just removing from trucks that we're getting ready to sell,
Okay.
and then we'll dispose of the van boxes. Basically, that's what we'll do, is dispose of them.
All right, I just saw them out there and was just
Yeah, I
wondering.
got them all neatly lined up.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, I don't want to create an eyesore or anything, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for him. What are you doing with the gravel area? The large gravelled area?
On the site itself,
Mm-hmm.
the buildings that are proposed, well, up the gray area there,
Mhm.
that's all going to be paved. And instead of that notch area where we're going to continue that now. So the majority of the site's going to be paved. We'll leave a little bit of gravel just towards the east, just to help with some of the stormwater.
That's a huge area.
It is.
Are there any other further questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Eric?
Again, the silo, understanding that you want to maintain it for its historic and potential architectural value. Is it a cost savings issue, or is it that you want to maintain that portion of the structure? I guess that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. And I guess the lower part of the conveyor, is that section going to be removed?
Yes, the lower part of the conveyor will be removed. I think it's a little bit of both. It's an existing structure, it's there, why not utilize it somehow? And, yeah, we do want to create some sort of feature, use it as a feature. Help maybe advertise, maybe just put something on the side of the square structure itself. I think there's an opportunity there, is what I'm saying. We just got it as built, so we haven't had the time to put something together.
Sure, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment.
Mr. Iron?
Well, I kind of like the way the structure, or the batch plant, kind of breaks up the big ugly tilt-up building. I wish it were on the other side, kind of, but I think it has some possibilities there. I could see that. It would have been nice to see that tonight for us to approve it. That's the only question I have, is when we see something, we can approve it. When we can't, it's like, you know, what is it? So I don't know if that could be a condition or not. If we can vote on that later, or,
Mr. Chairman, there's probably lots of ways it could be handled. One possible way that I'm thinking of is to go ahead and approve the condition to remove it, and then the applicant, prior to getting his certificate of occupancy, can ask for an amendment and come back to the planning commission, and you could at that time amend the site plan approval and strike that condition, if so desired.
Mr. Chairman, just a comment from my perspective. I think we're all struggling with the same thing on that. You know, I'm not necessarily in favor of tearing it down, but I'm not in favor of leaving it as is without some sense of assurance that it will be used in a constructive manner. And yeah, as Randy said, it would have helped a lot to have had the plans a little further along as to what's going to happen with it. But I think, speaking for myself, I don't have any objections to leaving it, but I don't want it to just turn into an eyesore, in spite of what your intentions are now. I'd like to have some further assurance that it would be put to a beneficial use somehow. What other, if I could ask Craig, what other options might there be besides approving it with the 9 conditions you recommended, including the removal, and then coming back with an amendment? Are there other ways to shortcut that perhaps it wouldn't be quite so
Would you like to weigh in on that, Ms. Wallace?
Mr. Chairman, the other option probably won't be quite as palatable. That would be to postpone this into a date definite and certain until they have time to prepare plans and let you see exactly what is going to happen with it. Short of that, the way that Craig is suggesting is really pretty good, to approve it as staff prepared it and let them come back for an amendment, which may mean they have to take it down if you don't approve what the design happens to be. Short of that, the only way for them to figure out, and for you to figure out what's actually going to occur, is to have the plans in front of you, and that would require tabling this or postponing it to a date definite and certain.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Frank?
so regardless of, if we approve it today with to tear that down, they're going to have to come back if we don't approve it. So it's 2 trips to us regardless of which way it goes. So I liked your idea of saying tear it down, and then if you get to that point to where it's before your certificate of occupancy, come back to us and let's see what it looks like or what you want it to look like, and then we decide at that point whether we enforce that. But keep in mind that if we approve it with it torn down, with us saying you have to tear it down and we don't like what you've got, then it does have to come down, so.
well, this way they can kind of keep going forward with plans and
Exactly.
get it done, and then they've just got this one piece to mess with.
We can have. Okay, are there any other further questions? Thank you very much. And looking in the audience, I think we only have the people representing the case, so I'm not going to go into if there's anyone wishing to speak for or against, because there's no one here in the public to do that. Bob, do you have anything you'd like to? No, okay.
Just kidding.
Sorry, I didn't mean to, I now declare the public hearing closed. I think we need some discussion that we've had already. We entertain a motion, approve or disapprove, deny or table the site plan as proposed. whereas with these 9 recommendations, and wait for the future plan so that we can see what's going on with a silo.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve PLN 18015S with the 9 recommendations as represented in staff's report. That would include the item that we've discussed regarding the batch plan structure on the east side of the structure, that it be removed.
That'd be removed.
Yes, as represented in the staff, as recommended in the staff report.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, and it is listed under a heading of recommendations, but I just want to
It's a
make sure that
condition.
these are actually conditions of approval, not merely recommendations.
Okay, I would treat those as conditions of approval with the
Conditions.
9 recommendations
Okay.
that staff represented in their report.
I'll second that.
And then we, in the discussion phase.
Here in discussion.
Yes, I would like to clarify my motion for you folks that, I think, from what I sense, I know with my own opinion, is that we would favorably look at a proposal to leave that structure. And this, from our discussions, this would be the best way to let you folks move ahead. That we're not putting the kibosh on it, but we're certainly, we don't want to leave it open-ended, but I think you would, we would welcome the opportunity to see what plans you have with that structure before it is actually torn down. That's my comments.
Thank you, Mr. King. Any other further discussion?
Puts you,
Being done?
Mr. Chairman, puts you in
Mr.
an
Hain?
opposition trying to move forward with a, I mean, that's obviously, if they do proceed, and then we determine that it's coming down, I mean, that's a large expense they've done to renovate that portion of it, if they renovate it. Moving forward that way, I just find cumbersome and difficult. I know it's a hard thing to work around that, but I know in projects that I've done, that would be a tough one to work around. And that's all I've got, just on their behalf. And I agree. I think I-25 is wildly important for the progression of our community. And I think you guys understand that as well. I mean, it's a major problem that we've got with Casper. And I think that's what we're all struggling with at this point.
I don't think the recommendation was that they have to have it ready to go, but to give us a rendering of what they expect it to look like. So it wouldn't be any other cost other than preparing the rendering, and then they can go ahead and make the improvements necessary if that's what we choose to approve.
On the amendment.
That's
When it
correct,
comes-
on the amendment. So they don't have to actually have it done when they come back. Just give us an idea of what it's going to look like so we can make that determination. And then they can spend the money on that or tear it down if we're not in approval of that.
Is there any other further discussion?
You can do a lot with paint on that, the right colors. With a lot of prep.
Would you cast your vote, please? Now, this would be for all 9 recommendations.
Conditions. All 9
Conditions.
Conditions.
Well, recommended by the state. Okay, fine.
With all members voting aye, the motion passes.
I guess that's it. Thank you very much for coming. That concludes the public hearing for this evening. Anyone in the audience wishes to discuss anything further, please come forward. Communications from the commission. How's the LYD doing?
Fine, we have a meeting on Monday.
Okay.
I've got a question for our city council liaison when he offers his report.
I'm coming right up there. Liz is in Rollins, so I won't ask her. So, council liaison, Bob Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you guys made a good decision on this. A batch plant is a real asset, and the fact is, should they tear it down and scrap it, that could mean a loss of some revenue someday when they find somebody that wants to buy it. About the only thing you can't reuse in a batch plant is the sheet metal on the outside. So I think giving them a little flexibility in that is really a good idea, and I appreciate that. The other thing I want to talk about tonight was we do have an RFP in process for the 3 pieces of the old Plains Furniture building per se, and what's come to be known as the livery stable. And I don't know the timing, but I think we're out probably 30 days before that RFP
Beginning of September.
is ready. And we're leaving it, is what the draft says, basically, is we're leaving it fairly wide open to what could transpire in those areas. But we have kind of weighted it a little bit towards we would like something historically consistent, if you will, and consistent with the OYD. So anyway, I just wanted to encourage you guys to please read this RFP when it comes out, and I think council would like to have your input. I think, Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. King had a question for me.
Well, it relates to that very issue, Councilor Hopkins. Last month you had referenced the same issue, and you encouraged us to respond either as individuals or as the commission. And I've been kind of toying that around in my mind as to how best to do that. I guess I would ask if we were to try to come to a consensus as the commission with a recommendation or a vision as to what we thought, how would that best be structured? Would we put it in the form of a resolution, or is just
Actually, the RFP has gone through a number of iterations, and it's had some feedback from council, and I think the final feedback to put the whole thing together has been submitted, and that'll be worked on by staff over the next few weeks, and I guess I do want your input, and I'm sorry if I gave you that impression I didn't want your input, because I do. That's what P&Z does, guys. And so I think we would like to have your input, and if it would be a resolution, I'm not sure how it would actually work out, because the RFPs will be put together and we'll get responses. And this is going to be a ways down the road. If I recall correctly, the RFP will go out and we're asking for responses in, I think it's 160 days. And this is in order to allow folks to get financing arranged, get some conceptual ideas together, and so it's ways out. I can't swear to the 160-day number unless you remember.
I heard around 6 months. So.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a while. Nothing will transpire probably in terms of awarding something to somebody until 2019.
It'd be 180.
Pardon?
6 months is 180.
I don't know the exact number.
Plus or minus. I think it was 160 days, as I recall, but I don't have it. But in any case, this is an important piece of development in OYD, and it's had quite a bit of rehashing, if you will, to try and get it right. And I don't think anything is actually outlawed, other than we want something that's consistent with the OYD and the code for the OYD. So I would encourage you to stay involved, and we probably won't see anything for quite a while, because these people have to have time to put that together. So,
Well, perhaps when the RFPs are in and we get a chance to look at it, if we're going to do a joint, perhaps we can have a session at noon.
my guess is that there would be, I mean, council has to make the final decision, that's for sure. But I guess I would like to have your input before the final council meeting. Of course, that would be scheduled at a regular council meeting when we're going to review them. I'm assuming there will be presentations by those folks that have an RFP or that want to submit one, and I would encourage you to come and listen to those when they're done. So.
Well, if we were to present city council with a visionary resolution that we all agreed on, that didn't get into specific details, but we said it would sure be nice if this area looks like this when it's ultimately finished. I mean,
I
is
think
that something that you're
I think that would be
looking for?
totally acceptable. Yeah.
Well, that would mean getting us all together at a time and have some discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm asking for clarification if we're talking about the RFP, reviewing the RFP itself, or if we're talking about reviewing the projects before the council reviews them. I guess I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm not sure that couldn't be done in 2 stages. You could look at the RFP and say, conceptually, we think this is a good plan. And then, once you guys get to actually see the proposals, I'm sure they will be presented at council. And there will be a chance for each and every one of us to put our 2 cents in.
And the RFP is available to review now?
I think it'll be available probably within the next month.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that include tours? Public,
Sorry?
does that include open to the public tours or something, or?
Well, the RFP, once it's put out, will be a public document.
Okay, but I
One
mean,
of our,
will it be scheduled tours where people can come in and look at it, or do they just schedule it?
it'll be available online, I'm pretty sure.
Tours of the building.
Pardon?
Touring the building,
Tours of the building?
yeah.
I can't tell you what a schedule will be for that, but I can tell you, I recall language in the document that will have specific tours for people interested in it.
Okay.
And I think that might be another possibility for those of you who haven't been in it. I think that may be another possibility to get in and take a peek.
Well, it might get some other bidders and stuff in there,
Yeah,
or possible
the problem is that we've got issues with insurance.
sites. Yes,
And we also, so they'd have to be scheduled tours probably with a group, if I
Right.
understand it correctly.
that's why I was asking if it had been set up for lighting and so people could come in and
Well,
see
we
it.
haven't discussed whether there's going to be a lot of lighting available, because that's one of the real issues. There is not good lighting available in the building because there's no power. And I can't say how staff is going to handle that, but typically, construction guys know what they're going to do, and there may be some availability of a genset and some lights, but
Yeah,
That's what we used before.
that works.
We had flashlights before that we were using.
well, I think of one that I'd like to be crawling around in, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, I know there seems to be quite a bit of public interest in what's happening there.
Good, that's a good thing.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I would make a request to staff to keep us informed as to when that RFP becomes available so we can review it, and perhaps some of us could take the lead on drafting some kind of a resolution for the rest of the commission to review and discuss.
Would that,
No problem at all, Mr. Chairman, and of course, we can do work sessions or training sessions also if you wanted to discuss
I was going for
more
something. I'll have
informal session, and yeah, we can get as in-depth as you guys want to be.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't think I have anything else unless you have questions for me.
Any questions?
No.
No, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
There being no further business to conduct, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
would move to adjourn our meeting.
I will second that.
It has been moved and seconded. We are adjourned.
Oh, we have to vote. 'Cause somebody may want to stay here all night.
Don, go ahead and vote.
Eric doesn't want to leave.
Pushing no.
You have to leave.
Exactly.
Eric's staying.
Yep.